Yeah, and I suppose in that game as well, we've seen obviously a few different rules, I suppose, being implemented, like the advantage rule, and then you have the penalty rule that was on display in the Dublin Roscommon game. Like, what's your take on all that? I don't think anyone's really a fan
Ah,
of
come
a lot
here,
of these
look.
changes at the moment.
Yeah, look, come here. It's you know what they're tinkering around with the game. I don't know what the story is, and just leave the game alone. Like and I was envious of how the hurling were being let alone, and now they're messing them around. Now it's just I don't know what the story is. Just leave the game alone and let them play football. And like reward this thing about rewarding a mark. Are we trying to turn into Aussie rules or not? Like rewarding players for catching the bleeding ball. Like seriously. For a defender to catch a ball and he puts the hand up, and then a forward to catch a ball. Like I caught glimpses of the Westmead and Mayo or the other day. Or I think it was Tomas Shade mentioned it as well. I watched it like nothing marks, like 20-yard pass to the side to retain possession. Like, are we going to coach the instincts of our players just to catch a ball rather than teach them how to play 1v1, win a ball and take the man on, or like as a forward or as a defender to be able to defend 1-on-1. And that's the one thing that Dublin strength has been, and I don't think they get the recognition for it, is that they're 1-on-1 defending when they're up against any opposition is the best that's out there, and it allows them to play the game that they can play because they can trust that Johnny Cooper or Mick Fitzsimons or Murch or Johnny or John Small can mind himself 1-on-1 with whoever they're left with, so they can go and play a more expansive football. Like it's about defending and getting the ball back as quickly as possible when you don't have the ball. When you have the ball, you go forward as quickly as possible, and they're messing around with the game and they're destroying it in my opinion. Just leave it alone. Take away the marks. This thing about the kickouts or the trying to control everything. Look, the game evolves, and the big thing for me, I suppose, what's happened now is that Dublin have mastered the counteract the blanket defence, and still teams are going out implementing blanket defences. And the problem is what I find is that they spend so much time of coaching teams to stand in defensive positions in zones that they've coached the actual instincts of players to play on the front foot, to play without a bit of freedom, not being afraid to give a ball away. If a 60-40 passes on, they rather give a excuse me now sideways or backwards rather than being picked out for giving away a stat or a ball. Like and that's for me is where the big issue is that and look, it's I suppose the last 10 years of teams going out and playing defensively, and it's gonna seep down, and that's where you find the teams that are Dublin have mastered, and teams no longer go 1-on-1 or go push up or go all out, attack and ask questions. You can attack with numbers, but you can defend, as well intensely when you don't have the ball. Like this thing about dropping 14 men behind the ball. Like, I watched the Armagh game against Tyrone the other day there, and it was a Saturday evening, and like at times there, like Armagh played some fantastic football. Like they got a great goal in the second half, diagonal ball in, long ball in, turned his man bang back in there, and then there was times then there was 50 meters of space between them winning the ball back in the defence, and they had to run it, run it, run it, run it, and then look, they had loads of runners, but like the ball travels quicker than a man. If they had anyone that was a link in like the half forward line to the full forward line, there was an outlet ball to be kicked. And you look at Dublin and Kerry where, there was always someone in the half forward line to link the play to the lads inside. And that's where I feel that, that's where the game has been lost. This, I call it easy coaching in terms of coaches coaching players to stand like in zones or having 14 men behind the ball. And the problem is that, when it comes to defenders looking to defend 1-on-1, when it does happen, then when they've been caught out, because they've been so used to having a screen in front of them, an extra player out, contain the space, and that's the problems that, that sort of things where I feel the game has dropped off, and that's where, a lot of teams are playing safe football, and in order to beat Dublin, you're going to have to take risks, and the game's about risks, and like How many times you see Dublin taking risks, giving the ball in, and will they stop deviating from their game plan? Absolutely not. And it's like the prime example. Sorry, I know we're going on a small bit. Prime example was not last year, the year before, when he drew Kerry in the first match. They were down a man. They knew they were down. Knew they had to get a score or not concede the score. And Clucko came out as the spare man. Went on Tommy Walsh, and he pushed up to squeeze live. They knew it was a gamble, but they knew they had to take it. And that was in the dying minutes of an All-Ireland final. That's being brave. That's being, okay. And people say, oh, well, you've won X amount and Z. All-Ireland. No. That should be the way you coach your team, is to go and take risks. If the game was there to be won, go and win it. Not be safely. And how many times have we seen over the last how many years teams still being 10 points down and they still stick to the same process? Look, it's not working. It's not. What was it? There was I think down had a defensive system there, and they were 2-11 down or something, and they still only got 7 points. Like, at what stage do you say, like, as players or coaches, do you say, look, like, hang a hat on something like? And from my philosophy as a coach or a former player and stuff, is that, like, go out and win a game of football. Like, the objective is to go and score when you have it. When you don't have the ball, then is trying to get the ball back as quickly as possible. And then, look, you look at Man City this year and Liverpool last year. Players who are on hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, and their attitude in terms of when they don't have the ball, how quickly they press, put the pressure put teams under pressure when you don't have the ball. Very simple, but look, I'll go on all day about it.